You're joining us here at the Property Investor Show, and one of the trends here at the show is the products and services surrounding the serviced accommodation sector. And joining me to talk about that is Ivo, who provides one of those services. And Ivo, you were on the panel with me yesterday talking about serviced accommodation. We'll go to that in a second, but your company, Win-Win Keeper, what do you provide for serviced accommodation sector?
So first of all, it's really important for people that doesn't know what service accommodation is. We're explaining in detail what we do, how we do it exactly, and what are the upsides, but also there is a few things that people need to be aware, and a lot of companies and people that are doing it are sweeping things under the carpet.
Yes.
So there is quite few regulations, and we touch base on the panel a couple of those, like the 90-day rule when we're talking about London, that people need to be looking into the leasehold agreements, what type of insurance they have, and also the mortgages, the mortgage providers, did they have any restriction towards the short lets, etc. So first of all, our job is to raise the awareness and educate the vendor. Then they need to do their own due diligence because we are not offering the legal advice, etc. And what we do is we manage the properties on behalf of the vendor, and we're able to generate 30 to 80% above market rent, depending on the property location and the spec of the property. But we do specialize in London Zone 1 and 2.
Okay. Now you mentioned there that the returns can be very lucrative, and that is attracting a lot of people to the sector. It's attracting a lot of trainers to the sector, claiming all these, these big incomes and so on. But you and I, we were both very keen to get across that you need to understand what you're getting into, you need to understand the legislation and also the downsides as well.
Absolutely agree with that. And if a trainer is, a lot of people they have theoretical understanding about it, but it's a completely different if the person haven't got the practical experience. So I have seen financial projections that are pretty much a one number through the whole year. So this is an alarm bell straight away. The service accommodation business and sector is very macro and micro. You need to look into the macro and microeconomics.
Yep.
So 1 month you can achieve, let's say, £2,000. The next month you can achieve 1,200. The third month you can achieve £3,000. So it's a seasonal business, and you really need to understand the patch of properties, the area that you're focusing on. And definitely my recommendation is look into the data. It's a lot of people are promising things, and I would say data is the key.
Indeed, and one of the things you have to do is you have to have systems in place, you have to have support staff, and interestingly, one of the things that came up in our panel was people were struggling to find cleaners, and they're fundamental to it, aren't they?
I would say so, and if somebody is starting, because we're a management agency, but also people can explore and try short lets by themselves as well. So my recommendation is finding a cleaner. Don't go for a cleaning company if they're not specializing in Airbnb cleaning, because they're hiring a new staff, and the staff is not really trained properly, etc. There's a lot of turnover there. So make sure that you work with the individual initially who can clean the property to a particular standard, and you really clearly describe what is your expectations.
Yes.
But getting into, if you want completely hands-off service, when somebody is taking care of the advertisement, communication, revenue management, etc., you can look for a company, and there are a couple of companies. It's not only us who are out on the market, but when we are really standing out is the personal touch. We have the in-person check-in, which we touch base on security and vetting guests. It's a really important part, and people need to beware when self-check-ins and lock boxes are in place. That can lead into a horror stories, as we all have read and seen on TV as well.
Indeed. Now, one of the things that you've experienced is what you called fraudulent bookings.
Yes.
Could you explain what that is?
So we're a company that we not only rely on Airbnb, but we actually are capitalizing on Booking.com and various other channels where we have to collect the payment ourselves. So people are using fraudulent cards to make reservation in order to stay for free, maybe have a party, and perhaps damage the place. So we are receiving 15 to 20 fraudulent bookings a week because of the number of apartments that we have under management. However, we have systems, processes, and if this then that system that really allow us to have 100% success rate of identifying them and not allowing them to stay in the properties, because it's better to be safe than sorry, I would say.
Oh, definitely.
Again, people are justifying having a lockboxes as allowing that to happen. I think that it's always good to have it just in case after, but the initial point of contact with the guest needs to be a personal, and that's why we have 24 hours check-in services, so we can meet the guest at any time of the day or night and accommodate them, make them feel welcomed. And afterwards, if there is not going to be a really need of a lockbox for them to get themselves, because they're going to have the keys already. But again, the initial in-person touch is very important for us, from the security perspective and from the customer service perspective too.
Indeed, very good point. And obviously, I think this is a growing sector. How do you see things going for the service accommodation sector into 2018 and beyond?
I definitely think that they are disrupting a little bit the hotels, especially in London. However, if all of us who are doing service accommodation have understanding of how we should do it in the right way, make sure that people are vet and we are following legislation as much as possible, things will move very positive, and I don't see any problems with the particular growth of the sector.
Okay, well, I have to say Ivo is such a mine of information about serviced accommodation, and thank you very much for being part of the panel yesterday.
Thank you very much.
And wish you all the luck with your business as well, and very, very refreshing to see somebody such as yourself advocating best practice. So thank you
very
for
much,
doing
Vanessa.
that. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.